Everyone. You know, this was kind of a surprise broadcast, even for myself today. I just was motivated to give you guys this quick information. I wonder if people like myself was more inflammatory. We spoke a little more volatile. And I wonder, and if we also changed our stance when it comes to immigration and we started to act like those that are in power. That's what I'm figuring. That's what I'm trying to understand. What if we were more like that, right? What if we broke down all the conditions um, that plague illegal immigration and how that directly affects Black Americans? But let me go a step further. So let me start off something like in the United States, the topic of immigration has always been a subject of great import and debate. It is a complex issue that garners differing viewing points across the political spectrum. Now, within the landscape, the Democratic Party and Black Americans have shown a remarkable degree of support for immigration. This shared support is rooted in a commitment to inclusion, diversity, as well as economic opportunity with the historical experiences. So what if I started off like that? Doesn't that sound like someone who heavily supports immigration and also being Black at the same time? Because the Democratic Party and Black Americans have had a in-depth shared history for civil rights and equality, right? Which is, believe it or not, Black people prior to Lyndon B. Johnson, civil rights and all of that were conservative. They were Republicans. Then we started after LBJ with Martin Luther King signing civil rights into law. We became Democrats and then even liberals to a certain degree. We totally flipped the coin on its back, like a reverse mindset. So that's why Generation X and a lot of other people are politically confused what's good and what's bad that we've traditionally known for Black people. What's bad and good for Black people? I mean, think about the civil rights movement of 1960s to the ongoing efforts today. Black Americans have long championed social justice and equal rights for all. Or have we? Or have we been always fighting for our rights? And somehow that got liberaled to everyone. See, if you do a deep dive analysis of who is supporting and being the mouthpiece for quote unquote Black Americans and feeding us this bullshit that we are more concerned with other people and their conditions versus our own. Think about that. They have convinced us that we should be worrying about everybody other's issues other than our own. And I want you to look at this as well. You're Black and you're LGBT, but somehow mass media, social media, liberals, someone convinced you that instead of being Black first, which you were born, that you're LGBTQIA alphabet first. And so you start putting those groups' agendas before your own. Because before you was part of the LGBTQ community, you were Black. As simple as that. But when we look at the legacy of the Democratic Party and the way it's positioned its platform, with emphasis that the importance of inclusion and equal opportunities for all, supporting immigration aligns with this commitment. Supporting immigration aligns with that commitment that we've made. So a lot of people are saying, no, I don't support illegal immigration. I don't support them dumping people in Black neighborhoods and using their resources. I don't support that. Where your vote tells me otherwise. and maybe even some of your ideology, right? So when we look at this, and we're going to be very quick here, this understand people that understands what a liberal is, right? And we're just going to jump down here. A supporter of political and social philosophy that promotes individual rights, civil liberties, democracy, and free enterprise. Okay, we can get down with that. We can get down with the definition states. Then it states here is one who is open-minded or not strict in the observance of orthodox, traditional, established forms of ways. Okay. Then we look into liberal political views. It talks about believing in equality and individual liberty, supporting private property and equal rights, supporting the idea of limited constitutional government, recognizing the importance of related values such as pluralism, toleration, autonomy, bodily integrity, and consent, right? All of those things, right? Then there's one quick definition of a political conservative. American conservatives tend to support Christian values, okay, Black people, more absolution, traditional family values, Black people, and American exceptionalism, Black people, and abortion. That used to be unheard of in the Black community when we speak about abortion, right? Euthanasia, same-sex marriages, that was all frowned upon. They would have you believe, because the agenda is in place, that majority of Black Americans are part of the LGBTQ community. And then they tell you on the other hand that only 2 to 3% of the entire population is part of that community. The numbers just don't add up, because we know it's a farce. We know it's false. We know it's wrong. But the only way we can understand these things, family, if we deconstruct it, look at it, analyze it, then go back, regurgitate that information, and give it to our people who may not understand the way that the system of white supremacy is constructed and how it activates certain groups to do their bidding. The biggest group of people they can do is the president and vice president. Very easy. So it states here that Vice President Kamala Harris unveiled strategy to address illegal immigration at the border. And I want you guys to look at the date. This is 2 years ago, roughly 2 years ago. And it was already a problem then. And here we are 2 years later, and the problem is even worse than it once was before, right? So I could read through all of this, but basically what POTUS and the POTUS have done has given supporting immigration in Central America, that has given them billions of dollars. Who dollars? Your dollars. Who dollars? Our tax dollars. Vice President Kamala Harris released a sweeping strategy on Thursday to address the root causes of migration amid the recent surge in illegal U.S.-Mexico border crossings. Okay. Shortly after, strategy to address the root cause of migration in Central America. When I pop up these, family, I want you to understand that this legislation, these fact sheets that they list on the whitehouse.gov, I want you to understand that every single document that's listed on there has money behind it. So it's not no informational piece. It's not no journal, a book, a news clipping, a paper, a story, statement. No, it is a bill, a legal policy of sorts that has the backing of money. So it states here, root cause of migration from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. So instead of working you guys way through the list, I'm gonna do that. I go right to the money. And here's the other fact sheet that's listed on whitehouse.gov. VP Harris announced public-private partnership has generated more than $4.2 billion in private sector commitments for Northern Central America. Because at first the name is somewhat, disguised a little bit. And I said, no, is that the same thing as the other thing? Oh, let me just go ahead and start reading. Again, I told you, they don't expect for us to read what's in the context of the documents. They just think you're going to read the title of it and you're going to be fine with it. So I'm going to go read. VP Harris and the Partnership for Central America today announced more than $950 million in new private sector commitments in responses to her call to action for Northern Central America, bringing the overall total to more than $4.2 billion since May of 2021. These investments will help address the root cause of migration by creating economic opportunity in the region, and they still haven't thought about or given us reparations. But here you are giving billions of dollars for them to figure out the problems of why their people are moving from their country to our country. And even though they're trying to seek asylum, meaning the law is after them for political persecution, but majority of them is just coming over here, getting jobs illegally. Because here's the thing. My stance is not about the people themselves. Let me get that correct. It's not about the people themselves. They're trying to do whatever's best for their families. But if their families coming here hurt my family here, then who am I for first? I'm for my family. So we're not thinking of this in terms of survival, and we need to, because the conditions are only getting worse. And maybe it doesn't affect you, right? Maybe it doesn't affect you. Maybe it doesn't affect me. But you're going to start not seeing Black people like that. Let me continue. Now, this is $4.2 billion that's supporting, and I want you to understand the wording here. New private sector commitments in response to call to action. They just said we're giving them $4 billion and nobody knows why. Like, if you read the document and you go through that, it's a bunch of nothing. It's just a bunch of words. Like, they just said a lot and didn't say nothing. Now, even to this day, there are still asylum seekers saying they crossed the border illegally, but they're not asylum seekers. I just wanted to point that out very quickly, okay? Now, what's important here is the constant money that goes to South America, Central America, Mexico, Ukraine, all of these foreign countries. Now, I understand tactics. I understand keeping peace in regions. In order for them to do that, they need funding. But what I'm just noticing is that everybody is getting paid except for the descendants of those who built the country, in order for you to have these niceties the way you guys live within this country. So it's benign neglect constantly, but for some reason we think that if we don't vote, I'm gonna start you from the beginning, that if we don't vote, it's our ancestry duty to do so. No, it isn't. They fought and bled and died for you to have the choice, the freedom to do something or do nothing. So I think our minds are not even thinking about that. It was about freedom. It was about choice. So if you think it's some obligation to do something, that's not you having a choice. Okay, but on another note, we're not looking at the bigger picture in the sense of, even though all of this money is going to all these people, even before Kamala Harris was president and Joe Biden was president, Black people had indisputable truth and evidence of, one, their anti-Black racism in some form. Two, how Kamala's flip-flopped in almost everything she said from the day she ran and from the day that she said she'll be VP for Joe Biden. But let me show you Kamala Harris in another light that you guys probably haven't seen this, because this is quite some time ago. I forgot, maybe a couple of years ago or so. But I want you just to listen to the question, and then I want you to listen to Kamala Harris. Peace be unto you.
Progressive movement to make criminal justice less punitive and racist, yet your record as a prosecutor shows that you embrace the tough on crime mentality. You've defended California's death penalty, and as California's Attorney General, your office opposed the release of nonviolent prisoners and violated the constitutional rights of various drug defendants. How do you reconcile your contradictory past with what you claim to support today?
I've been consistent my whole career. My career has been based on an understanding, one, that as a prosecutor, my duty was to seek and make sure that the most vulnerable and voiceless among us are protected. And that is why I have personally prosecuted violent crime that includes rape, child molestation, and homicide. And I have also worked my entire career to reform the criminal justice system, understanding, to your point, that it is deeply flawed and in need of repair, which is why, as Attorney General, for example, I led the Department of Justice, which is the largest state Department of Justice in any state in California, and implemented the first of its kind in the nation implicit bias and procedural justice training for police officers. It is why I created the first in the nation for any Department of Justice an open data initiative that we named Open Justice, for the first time making transparent and showing the public statistics around deaths in custody, arrest rates by race, and making that information.
I want to point out a couple of things here. Kamala Harris supported a city policy that required law enforcement to turn over undocumented juvenile immigrants to federal immigration authorities if they were arrested and suspected of committing a felony, regardless of whether they were actually convicted of a crime. So, in a sense, family, this is an anti-immigration tactic that Kamala Harris was using in San Francisco. You see how I'm giving you the contrast here? That, oh, I'm tough on this, I'm tough on that from the video. And then we go back and she was actually anti-immigration, but today they're supporting immigration and she's giving them $4.2 billion. But let me point out this, when she was on the route, fair use, commentary and news only. When she was on the route, I want you guys to remember, I want you guys to view this most famous clip, okay? And I'm gonna let it play in its entirety so you can, if you've never seen it, then this will be the first time, but you definitely need to see it and listen very carefully, okay?
Do you support reparations for Black people?
Well, listen. Again, we had over 200 years of slavery.
Fair use.
We had Jim Crow for almost a century.
Okay, so every single time you talk to these politicians, the first thing they tell you is what Black people have been dealing with, right? The conditions that we were in and what occurred and the atrocities and the pain and anger and loss, all the conditions, right? Listen.
We had legalized discrimination, segregation, and now we have segregation and discrimination that is not legal but still exists.
Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to pause it again, but listen. God damn it, Kamala Harris. Just answer the question. The question is, do you support reparations for American descendants of slaves, Black people? Do you support reparations for Black people? She actually said, do you support reparations for Black people? And she's talking about Jim Crow and redlining. Listen.
And as a barrier to progress. We have disparities around housing. We have disparities around education. We have disparities around income. And we have to recognize that everybody did not start out on an equal footing in this country. And in particular, Black people have not.
Of course not.
And so we have got to recognize that and do something about that and give folks a lift up. That's why, for example, I'm proposing the LIFT Act.
The Lift Act.
Give people
never
who
got
are
passed.
making $100,000 or less as a family a tax credit, which will benefit and uplift 60% of black families who are in poverty.
So by default, it affects black families.
Whoever this reporter, this anchor woman is, let me tell you something. This by far was one of the most powerful interviews she's done. And you can't see her. I haven't seen her anywhere on social media. I don't know where this reporter went because this damn near destroyed Kamala Harris. I'm trying to tell you. This clip, and it's still on the griot. This clip alone almost destroyed Kamala Harris. But of course, we had some blue-looking coons and some ski-wees and some duties and some deltas and some Divine Nine people support her. So that's how she continue to get some support for black people. But I want y'all to listen to this. She said, so by default, your Lift Act is going to help people. And she was like, yeah. But now she's about to show you the sister side.
Families, but there's not a particular policy for African Americans that you explore.
But no, if you look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies, when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit black children, black families, black homeowners, because the disparities are so significant. So if we focus on the specific issues
Of course, she's not answering the
that
question
have
yet.
resulted in the greatest disparities, and we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Listen, the reality also is this: any policy that will benefit black people will benefit all of society. Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No, because
That famous clip. And the reason why this is important for us to not forget people's words, because this is their ideology and this is their belief, and this is where they're going to act upon or not act upon. And so I'm showing you her stance on anti-immigration, how she flip-flopped on that, and tough on crime, so to speak. And she even stated that she believes that illegal immigrants, that it's not a crime, that people cross inside of our country illegally, which is a federal crime. But before I get too far ahead, I definitely want to show, Joe Biden in his famous interview on the Breakfast Club 3 years ago. Because I think a lot of people forgot about Joe Biden, and they're trying to ramp you guys up by going to Howard University's commencement speech. They're trying to get you guys all motivated, all jazzed up, all charged up to go support Jim Crow Biden and his anti-black racism, benign neglect policies and tactics, and then talk to us like we're crazy. And you guys still go and support. I just don't get it, family. Like, maybe you're a Democrat out of family ties. I don't know. But we should be looking at how people treat us and are they actionable on their words. And unfortunately, the Democrats and the entire party has really done nothing to decrease the wealth gap between Black America and everyone else, to replace a system of white supremacy with a system of justice, meaning that it doesn't matter the color of your skin. When committing a crime, you get the same trial, you get the same results as someone who is non-Black. That's just for a start. Because the first thing on the table is reparation, cash payments. But let me show you this very quickly in case you guys forgot. And I got some timestamps here. We're going to walk through it a little bit, but listen to good old Joe.
He said what I believe a lot of Black voters, including myself, feel, and that's that Democrats take Black voters for granted. You know, votes are quid pro quo, right? It's not like I don't want to vote. I just want to know what candidates will do for us in exchange for our votes. The same.
Charlemagne said I want to know what politicians are going to do for us in exchange for our vote. Okay, so this interview was actually good by Charlamagne. He could have tuned it up a little bit. He let Biden get away with weasel words, and Biden just goes on these rants about nothing. So he's basically asking Joe Biden a question through statements, right? It's possible. And he's letting them know, hey, listen, we're just voting. We haven't got nothing out of the Democratic Party. So if we render our vote to you, what are you going to do? Listen to what Joe Biden says and don't say.
Same way young progressive Latinos, the LGBT community.
Absolutely.
We want the same thing. Do you feel like black people are owed that from the Democratic Party?
Absolutely, Paul. What did I say? Remember when they said Biden can't win the primaries?
Yes.
I kicked everybody's out. Excuse me.
No, talk like that. I need you to say that. You did what?
No, I won overwhelmingly. I told you when I got to South Carolina, I won every single county. I won a larger.
Okay. So again, man, politicians will drive me crazy because I speak very directly, and they beat around the entire fucking park. But anyway, Charlamagne basically asked him, what are you going to do for us for our vote, just like you've done these other groups? That's what Charlamagne said. Joe Biden is talking about he's won every county. He totally deflected it. Okay. Some people may say, you see now, no, that's a tactic right there. Okay. He totally deflected and started talking about he won every county. He's going to talk about black people. He's not going to even answer the question of what he's going to do for us.
Share of the black vote than anybody has, including Barack. I increased the vote in Virginia overwhelmingly by 70%. Look, what people don't know about me is I come from a state that's the 8th largest black population in America.
What does population got to do with the question?
I get 96% of that vote for the last 40 years. They're the folks, as they say it my way, brung me to the dance. That's how I get elected every single time. And everybody's shocked. I get overwhelming support from the black leadership, young and old.
To answer the question.
Every poll shows me way ahead. And it's not just, I hear this, oh yeah, old blacks are with Biden, but youngs aren't. Look at the polling data. Polling data, let's say it's off by half.
Let me see where I'm at.
Come on, man. Give me
This is ludicrous. I could let this whole entire video play, but I won't. I'm just trying to take some parts from this good interview that Charlamagne did. But man, this guy just rambles on.
I had this fancy job, a kid coming from a lower middle income household. I quit and became a public defender. And I stayed in that community. I was the only guy when I was in high school. I had a job, a country club kind of job at a swimming pool. I was the only white employee in the East Side because I wanted to work in the projects.
So he was the only white employee because he wanted to work in the projects. What middle American teenager or young person actually wants to do that? I mean, I'm not saying that there's not, but again, family, the whole point I'm making here, he hasn't answered the question that one time. So I won't bore you any longer, but I will fast forward this a little bit to show you Biden's public service announcement. Don't forget his public service announcement to black people. And I just want to make sure, we hear this again, just in case any of you guys missed it. Listen in.
I do that to white media and black media because my wife has to go on at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Oh, I'm in trouble.
Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want.
And Charlamagne let that slide. Charlamagne just let that slide. I like, what do you mean if we don't vote for you, we're not black? What are you talking about? What in reference? Well, give me some context. Like you said it, because if I'm at that journalist spot, he would never interview me again. I promise you. I like, what do you mean by that comment, President Biden? No, break that down for me, because what's going to happen, if you can't explain it, I'm going to write what I thought you said inside the paper. That's what I'm going to do, right? We don't hold these people accountable for the words that they say and the actions they don't do. We don't do it. We don't do it. And I get it. You know, a lot of these people, they have jobs and they have fame and fortune, and they want to make sure they don't want to hurt the bag. Listen, a couple of us got to sacrifice, right? These people you hear on the space of Black empowerment, it's a sacrifice of sorts, family, and it should be respected because it's for the betterment of our people. And we need to be selfish with it sometimes. We need to be selfish. Now, I read a brilliant article that a friend Stephen Gardner sent to me. And I reached out to Pamela Denise Long because I would love to interview her. Hopefully I can get her attention and have her on the broadcast. Now, at first I was trying to figure out what angle she was coming from about DEI, diversity. Was it diversity, inclusion, and I don't know, diversity something, education, inclusion, I don't know what it, but it's an abbreviation that Ron DeSantis has now defunded. DEI is diversity. We'll get into it. I don't know why I'm messing up what the E is, but anyway, listen to this, family. Rewind this a little bit.
Reality, what this concept of DEI has been is to
see what's gonna, okay, I don't know what's going on there.
Administrative apparatus of the university itself, and that manifests itself in a number of different ways, but this has basically been used as a veneer to impose an ideological agenda, and that is wrong. And in fact, if you look at the way this has actually been implemented across the country, DEI is better viewed as standing for discrimination, exclusion, and indoctrination, and that has no place in our public institutions.
Okay, so that's Ron DeSantis, more Ron DeSantis, everybody knows. And then I saw her, this Newsweek article, and it says, Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida continues to make headlines for staking out controversial positions at the heart of the culture wars. Right, and talks about DEI, and it's not what he said. It's like diversity, inclusion, and equality. That's what it is. Diversity, equality, and inclusion. Okay, and he's written a bill to defund DEI, and then she writes this article. Today, DEI is a big grift that grabs advocacy for sexual preferences and illegal immigrants onto the outstanding obligation due to the descendants of U.S. slaves. So automatically I started to read that and I'm like, what's the connection here? Everybody knows that DEI gets its moral authority from the participation of Black leaders who are funded by white liberals. Now you're probably understanding why we went over the definitions of liberal as well as conservative earlier, because I wanted to make this connection, and hopefully we can pull that in here. Because she's speaking about us. A group of people who funded a way to make themselves minorities based on lifestyle choices. This sister wrote this article. This is what we've been saying for quite some time. And someone even said it, I forgot why I read it. It says the biggest white supremacists are white liberals. Because they are the ones who are lobbying for all these other groups and using Black people in political office as donkeys, as these gateways to Black people's ears and hearts to manipulate us. And in doing so, they keep their political positions and authority and power. And that's why we have so many goddamn sellouts in the Congressional Black Caucus and politics on all levels. And she's pointing it out. Because she's going to point it out who's controlling these Black people, right? Because it says funded by white liberals. This conflict of interest ensures Black political leaders are unable to do their actual job of delivering for Black Americans because they are too afraid to lose sponsorship from white DEI power brokers. She's talking about money. You see that? The white liberals are fueling the black politicians to do nothing for black people. That's what she's stating. And maybe she can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I'm getting from it. We see more black misleadership in how the Congressional Black Butt Kissers, caucus wasted 4 years disrespecting President Donald Trump instead of working with the leader of the free world to deliver on the economic and political interests of black Americans. Now, that statement there seemed like though she's a conservative, but it's still truth to power. Because they did waste their time just saying obnoxious things about Donald Trump that did nothing for black people, instead of going to Donald Trump and say, hey, listen, to keep you in power, what are you going to do for black people? You know that contract with Black America that you met with Cube with? Are you going to write a bill supporting that? Or are you going to listen to the black grassroots and leaders within the communities of what reparations is and what it should look like? What are you going to do? But they didn't go to him for that. And he definitely wasn't coming to us. And some of you are going to say, well, he wasn't going to do nothing anyway. How do we know? Because he didn't do anything? But I still agree with it because they could have went out and tried. This same mission drift is happening in historical black organizations like the NAACP. Legacy organizations like the Urban League have sold out to the immigration lobby and one-sided Pan-Africanism instead of securing the domestic interests of the descendants of U.S. slaves. This is a powerful article, sister. I don't think people read this. I don't think people understand the words. You said they sold out. You're saying they're coons and sambos and buck dancing and cutting a jig and playing political Ponzi schemes on Black America. That is what this sister is saying. We've been scammed. They sold out. They're traitors. They're turncoats. Thus, the president of the NAACP advocated for the descent of U.S. slaves to forgive African slave traders and serve as an economic base for Africa rather than advising Black Americans to lean into our Americanism. Lord have mercy. She was fired up today. She fired up when she wrote this. I feel the power in this family. This is all FBA energy here. What kind of leadership tells Black Americans to build a third world country, right? Go back to Africa. Go back to your homeland. Go build it up. Go build a third world continent rather than to reclaim our protected class in the first world country. We have multiple generations of sweat, blood, equity, meaning that we built this country. Why would we go anywhere else? Why would we go all the way to Africa and build a third world continent where we was traded over here in the first damn place? We were sold and we was told, go over there, boy. We were sold and we were told. Yeah, this FBA energy 100% so far. And I can't read the whole article, family. Very, very powerful article. I just wanted to point out some key words to you guys so you can be familiar with her and understand I'm not the only one. People within the Black empowerment space are not the only ones beating the drum of this. You're having people who are now coming into the space and getting on one accord. And for this to be on Newsweek, whoo, she's spitting hot fire. It's open secret that signing in the DEI choir and seeing your destiny as part of the Black and Brown coalition helps foreigners legitimize their political aims, but never ours. Oh my God. It's almost like she's preaching to me. She's saying, yeah, you done bought into the DEI choir, right? Black and brown, black and yellow coalitions and LGBTQ and this, that, and the other. You didn't bought into all of that. And you legitimize their political aims, but never legitimizing ours. Man. DEI, again, means diversity, equality, and inclusion. It says the DEI industry is selling us out to an intersectional collision that demands Black elected officials kiss the ring of migrants. Kiss the ring of migrants. The LGBTQIA plus community, and various other people of color, meaning other minorities, meaning like Asians and Hispanics. while giving nothing in return for our community. For us to get anything as Black Americans, we have to get our political agenda approved by illegal aliens, sexual minorities, and new Americans. Oh my Lord, 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 Lord. Man, she preaching. She preaching. This is power. This is speaking truth to power at the lowest level, family. But I don't mean the lowest level because she's speaking low. I'm saying it's so high because this is a low level for her. She had this gun cocked and loaded. She didn't say no damn African Americans. She said Black Americans, descendants of American slaves. And she's breaking out that the industry is selling us out to an intersectional collision that demands Black elected officials kiss the ring of migrants, LGBTQIA community, and other people of color, meaning everybody except for us, while giving nothing in return for our community. Then at the end, she says, we have to get our political agenda approved by illegal aliens. See that? That word changed from migrant. She went a little harder. Sexual minorities, because that's what it is. Sexual minorities and new Americans, meaning non-citizens, over here on H1, V1 and green card status. Yeah. She said that. I think that's all I had to stop, family, because the article, fair use on the article, but the article was just too damn powerful to let go. So I would love to interview this sister, Pamela Denise Long. I did hit her up on Twitter, so hopefully I can get her attention. We can have that interview. Let me see what you guys are saying. Coco says, we do not realize how serious a position they are in and what responsibility. Okay. I think I missed one. She states that I'm one of the few with receipts. Hope more YouTubers catch on. Hear others just make horrible journalistic mistakes. Thank you, Coco. I appreciate that. I'm not the best speaker, but I try to at least get the evidence correct. You got to go look for the hard information. She know no names, but it is a. Let's see what else she got here. Oh, she blew up the chat. What is so special now that these migrants over other migrants, like the other ones who jumped through hoops to get here? I did a video the other day. I don't know if you caught that one or not, but I was breaking down why these migrants are getting special statuses and why they're bringing them over in the butt loads. But at the end of the day, you may not think it as feeble as I'm about to tell you, but it's definitely based on skin color and ideology. You have to understand that, take for instance, a lot of Asians are now coming over. Now, let's speak about some darker Asians like Indian folk. They'd be just as dark as Black folk, from my complexion and lighter. You'll see Indian folk. But they come over here inherently with anti-Black racism because they actually practice colorism in their own country. You have light-skinned Indians, and you have dark-skinned Indians. And I actually have an interview with Shaweta. She's a writer that's based out of the UK that spoke about the colorism in India. You guys go check that video out on my channel. She's Indian and she lives in the UK. She spoke about the colorism in India and how she was fighting, and to a certain degree, she's still fighting skin bleach addiction. We're lightening of the skin. Lightening of the skin. She lightened her skin for years, she told me. And she stopped, and she said she still struggles with it from time to time. Go check out that interview. Very, very good interview, so you can understand. And behind that, we have to understand the minds of Indians as well. They was colonized for almost 200 years. They was colonized by the British for almost 200 years. So it's important that we understand the history and then how those dynamics transgress throughout history and how people are the way they are. Because when you think about certain countries in Africa that was colonized by some European country, right? countries that the Dutch, the Germans, the British, the French, the Portuguese were colonized. All of them, a lot of them have issues with people with skin bleaching, of whitening their skin. They have issues with that in Nigeria. They have issues with that in Jamaica because they were colonized. See, our history derives from a fighting nature, a rebellious nature, because we was taken centuries ago from our homeland. And then we became a new people with a new culture and built a new lineage. And it's out of being out of fighters. Even when we got out of shackles and chains physically, we still had to fight for right within this country. And many of us died. Many of us was tortured. Many of us went through many burdens in order to get where our people are today. We can't let other groups come with their hand out and they didn't go through what our people went through and what some of us grew up in. No. You go to Great Britain, you go to France, go get your reparations from the people who owe you money. This government owes us. They have paid everybody else except for us. And it's not about we deserve it. No. We don't deserve anything. We are owed reparations. Because here's the thing. When somebody deserves something, you're not obligated legally to give it to them. You're not obligated out of anything to give it to them. Like, man, you know what? You deserve a new car, man. That's it. You deserve it. But when someone owes you something, that's when you have to start speaking out and against things. And I'm really happy. I found this. My buddy sent me this article because very, very powerful article. And hopefully most of our people has this ideology that she spoke here and other ideologies, because family, listen, many of our great master teachers would tell us Black people have no friends except for ourselves. When you look at a Francis Cress Welsing, a John Henry Clark, man, it's just so much power from our history. What's going on, Jay the Informant? Let's see here. Coco states, well, I guess we will have to become immigrants to compete. Oh, wow. Leave and come back. We're going to leave and come back. She said, I saw the Jamaican video. She almost cried. Okay. Let's see here. On our own people see things so differently. I don't want to think they are traitors, just easily led. Yeah. I can't say that all of our people are traitors. Some of them are definitely uninformed, easy manipulated, but some of them actually know exactly what they're doing, especially those are in position and status and title. Those know. Oh, the name of the video, it's just an interview. If you go down my video lead, you'll see it. You'll see all the videos there or whatever about that interview with Shaweta, who's an Indian that lives in Britain, and she did a book about colorism called The Black Rose. That's the name of the book, The Black Rose. So you guys go check that interview out. Very, very powerful. But again, I just wanted to show you this interview here. Excuse me, not this interview, but this article, so you can read it yourself. Very, very powerful article, family. I tell you. And for it to be on Newsweek was very surprising for me. But man, this was powerful. I mean, this was a home run, sister. I take my hat off to you. Anyway, you guys have a great and wonderful evening, and I'll see you guys on the next one. I'm out.